Hello, everybody. This is Brian from Wick Carnivore. We've got Chad from Minimalist Carnivore here. How are you doing, Chad?
Doing good, doing good.
Right.
It's the turn of the season here in Phoenix, so it's starting to cool down finally. Today was the first cooler day in the morning, but then it's right back up. So as I look at my watch, it just went from 100 to 99. See? It's getting cooler.
Oh, there you go. It's
So it's
99.
still up there.
Oh my gosh. I don't know how you guys do it. I mean, like
I don't
in
like it.
August, it's like what, 110, 115?
Yeah, that jumps between those. I think this year we hit like 118 or something like that. We had like literally a month of like 115, and it's just I don't like that side. I like the other winter side, but that's why I do miss the islands because it never breaks 100 and never goes below 60. I actually really miss that,
Mm, wow.
but we're here.
Yeah. All right. I see some people are starting to come in, so welcome. Say hi in the chat. Um, Today's topic, we're going to be talking about, well, first of all, I'm going to put a little bit of a Halloween thing in it. We're just like a week and a half from Halloween here at this point. So we're going to talk a little bit about Halloween at the beginning, and then we're going to go into our topic, which has to do with is it cheating? Is it mindful treating? When you slip off your diet and so forth, and just talk about that kind of stuff. So let's see here. We've got Richard is here. Copper Hill,
Yeah.
Tennessee. Hello. Simpson is here. Hello.
Hello, hello. Hello, hello.
And I'm going to start here with a question for people that are watching. So I'm going to ask you a question, then just go ahead and put the answer in the chat. And I want to see what everybody thinks here. All right. So using the Halloween theme here, um, what is the most popular or the top selling candy for Halloween? Go ahead and put what you think the answer is in the chat.
Yeah. I have one thing I'll say about Halloween was interesting. I'm trying to think now if it was 1 year, 2 years. I think it was just the 2 years I tried it. I used to love Swedish fish, if you know those little red, fish candy things, and I used to love those.
Hmm.
And the first year after that, I kind of like bit the little guy's head off, and just tried one little nibble because my kids got some for Halloween because it used to be my favorite candy. And I just found it insanely sweet. And that was it. I just had that one little, literally just the head off it. The second year that I did it, it was so synthetic tasting. It was weird. I could actually taste like the flavoring, I guess. I don't know what it was, but it just tasted this weird waxy. I don't know what it was. It just tasted synthetic. And I ended up spitting it out because I couldn't even stand it. And I know that third year I didn't even try any of my old favorite candies because I was just curious. I'm just really curious how much it had changed. And if that was my favorite and it had gotten so bad, I was like, yeah, it's done.
Yeah.
So I know I didn't do it that year and I won't do it this year, but I did that first 2 years just to see what that was like. And I think the first year I might have had one other bite of something. I can't remember what it was. It might have been like those little weird chocolate sixlets or something, but it was like everything is weird now. Even actually, it's funny because I still test stuff once in a while just to see what it's like to me, even
Hmm.
though I've quit so much. And I think that's okay. And it'll fit into what we're going to talk about later anyway. I think it was like those when I did keto, when I started this, I did keto for a year and those Lily's chocolate chips. My wife still has them around the
Hmm.
house and stuff. And I've tried those before, in the last whatever time. And yeah, I just don't even, I can't eat them. Just flat out can't eat them. It's so weird of a taste. And it's
That's
not
when you
that,
know.
yeah, it's just truly not there.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's when you know that you're fully out of the carb addiction at that point when it
Yeah.
just tastes weird to you. You don't even like it anymore.
Yep.
All right. So our question again for all our viewers is, what is the top selling candy at Halloween? So go ahead and put it
Like
in the
a,
chat if you want, and we'll start
I
looking
like
at some of the
Williams
answers
got,
here.
hi guys, no candy for me, but then he's like most popular Reese's
Yeah.
or Snickers. What was
Yep,
your
and then
favorite
these are
candy,
those Reese's or
Brian?
Snickers. For me,
Yeah,
boy, I think it was probably Snickers, to be honest. Yeah.
Snickers.
Or I like Reese's too,
Curious.
though. So
The other
how
people are
about
here.
you?
Just jot down what your favorite was. I know mine was the Swedish fish, and then
Hmm.
I don't know what my second was. Maybe those little six-lit weird chocolate candies, and I definitely like candy. I like breads and carbs. I like cinnamon rolls because that combines sugar and bread.
Yeah. So
That
Simpson
was
says
like the
taffy.
ultimate.
That's a good one too. Yeah, taffy. So
Saltwater taffy was always good.
yeah. All right. So are we ready for the answer? The top selling Halloween candy is Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. So Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Interesting. And I'm going to stay on the fall and Halloween theme here. And so anybody out there goes like Starbucks or like Dunkin' Donuts, stuff like that, right? You're used to, they have all the different coffees, the frozen coffees and so forth, right? So there is a frozen coffee at Dunkin' Donuts that is a special for this time of year. It's called the Pumpkin Swirl Frozen Coffee. Check this out. There is 185 grams of sugar in a large pumpkin swirl frozen coffee. 185 grams of sugar.
I know, it's just insane.
That is equivalent to 14 glazed donuts. That can you imagine that? I mean, I don't even know what that could taste. It has to taste like pure sugar. It's crazy.
Probably is, yeah. I think I used to like pumpkin pie and pecan pie. I could see liking, the pumpkin stuff. But if it was in the past, I probably would have been having one. I don't like, I used to like espresso, and that was it though. So I
Mm,
wasn't a real big sweet coffee drinker, but stuff like that for the holiday treats sometimes were fun to do.
yeah.
M&Ms, yeah, M&Ms were good. I used to put M&Ms in the microwave for like 20 seconds so they melt inside. Any crazy the things addicts do.
William's asking, did you ever have snow caps or ice cubes? I remember snow caps. I don't remember ice cubes.
I remember
I don't know
snow
what any
caps.
candy ice
I don't
cubes
know what
was.
ice cubes are.
Yeah. Hmm. All right. Before we go into our topic, I had one more thing I was going to bring up here. Just a couple of facts, I guess, here. Americans buy nearly 600 million pounds of candy for Halloween. Not throughout the year, just for Halloween. 600 million pounds of candy. The average American consumes 3.4 pounds of candy on Halloween. The
How
average
much?
tricker, 3.4 pounds of candy on Halloween.
Oh my god.
Can you imagine that? I mean, that candy's not that heavy. The
Yeah.
average trick-or-treater consumes 3 cups of sugar, which is the equivalent of 150 packets of sugar, and it weighs 1.5 pounds. 1.5 pounds of sugar. The average trick-or-treater.
That's that's just insane. I know when I did a little, I didn't make it. I was gonna make it, and I still will, because Halloween's not there. When I was at Sam's Club the other day, kind of I go there early in the morning for the meat specials because it's 25% off. And I saw literally the buckets, and I was kind of thinking in my head, oh, got to get more pool tabs, and they come in those 5 gallon buckets. And there's literally like 5 gallon buckets of candy. I know they used to have the big bags, but I was kind of amazed that Sam's actually had these like big gallon buckets of candy for kids, you know.
Hmm.
It's just I'm
Yeah.
I'm gonna give out like dried cubes of steak or something.
Oh
Pull out
my.
a
I don't.
platter and have a bunch of cut up chuck roast on it. Here you go, kids. Better eat it now.
So I actually don't get any trick-or-treaters in my house the last couple of years. Really, since COVID, we haven't had anybody come to our house, so um,
We
I don't
don't
have to
really
worry
get
about it.
any here. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so let's go into our topic. Topic is from cheating to mindful treating. And Chad, why don't you get us started here with just talking about differences here between like if you consider it cheating or if it's just a treat and how you
Well,
handle that and so forth.
to me, I don't like the word cheat because it's like a dishonest. To me, cheating is like being dishonest, doing something. And if anybody ever has anything, it's a treat. It's just flat out a treat and you know it when you have it. You might not be in control of it. It might be a thing that you didn't want to do, but you still took it in. So I just say it's a treat. I would never say it's okay, but it happens. So just learn from it, move on. And I said this in a video and people kind of, I think, maybe didn't quite understand what I mean. If you I have 2 bites of my kid's birthday cake on their birthday. I know that. It's not that it's planned and I need it. It's just there and it's celebrating their birthday and it's not a big deal. I mean, you've heard Sean Baker say, "Oh yeah, I had a piece of cheesecake or I had a, slice of cake at my kid's birthday." And I think if it's like that kind of a thing once in a while, if you're planning on it and it's every Friday night you mess up, you have some serious issues and you need to take a look at how to fix those. But otherwise, it's a treat. You messed up. Just to sound mean, I hope you get sore. So you go, okay, I'm not going to do that again. And if you're not sore, then you know. And I said this in a little video the other day. It's kind of like when I used to race motorcycles. If you're not crashing, you're not pushing yourself. Sometimes you need that crash, or sometimes you need to cheat to know where your limits are too. So that's
Hmm,
kind of,
good
in a
point.
nutshell what I think. It's not a big deal. When you look back at it years ahead, when you've been doing this for a long time, those few days you did it and the further you get along, I think the less chance you will of, falling off the wagon, having a treat, whatever you want to call it are. And
Hmm,
it's not a big deal.
yeah.
That's it.
You're certainly further along than I am on the diet. I'm 15 months in, so a little over a
Yeah.
year. So I still have a lot of cravings at different times, right? And I'll be good. I'll be good. Like if I'm going really strict here, just eating meat, drinking water, using my salt, my Redmond salt, I'll be going good. But then as soon as I do something I shouldn't, then that's when the cravings kick back in for me. But I know you've been
Mhm.
doing it for a lot longer, and you don't really have that happen to you anymore, right? You're at the point
No,
where you don't even
I
care for anything
flat
else
out
anymore.
don't even care for it. And I think also I said I did a year of keto before, and I think that was okay for me because some people might know it, but I did keto wrong and keto did me wrong. There's just way too many fat bombs, way too many alternative foods. You can have chicken teriyaki, you can have teriyaki sauce, you can have burgers with barbecue sauce. So it really doesn't train you to rethink your eating. It just all you're doing is swapping sugar cane, which is a grass, for stevia, which is a leaf. All you're doing is swapping a grain rice for something else for rice. You're still having all this stuff. But because keto had so many chocolate cookie bars or Lily's chocolate chips were okay, you didn't need to cheat on regular food because you're already, in a sense, kind of cheating yourself, if you do want to call it cheating that, if you
Mm,
want to use that word, because you were having that treat and it's perfectly fine in that space because it's keto. And I think too, this is where I get kind of hardcore, even on the carnivore stuff. Like when people have all the carnivore pizzas and stuff, I'm totally fine with them. But I think if you overdo them, you got to be careful. They have to be a once in a while thing. And I'll make this joke with other people. I'll say, you eat a carnivore pizza every day for a month, and I'll eat a ribeye every day for a month. And let's see how we are at the end of that month. Because if you can't live on it, it should just be more of a, you've heard everybody say that eat cheese, eat these things as a condiment, or a little side, and they're okay. So if you do have a carnivore pizza once in a while, I'm okay. But I think if you're doing it every week, that's just my feeling. You could be filling up with good nutrient during that time. And I don't know if sometimes that helps people. Like, do you ever drink flavored seltzers, or do you drink any kind of seltzer? I drink plain ones.
So I mostly just drink water, but occasionally I'll have like the bubbly stuff. I don't know if you've heard of
Is
that.
it plain?
No, it's flavored, so it
Okay.
has like usually it's the lime one I think that I get. But I don't have it very often. One thing I noticed back in the spring is I was drinking a lot more of that, and when I stopped drinking it, it seemed like carvings went away. Before that, I kind of still had some carvings, so I think it was the little bit of the artificial stuff that's in there that was still keeping the carvings going for me at that point.
I I I always drink the plain, like I just drink the Costco sparkling water from the Italy one because it's like Pellegrino.
Mhm.
And they've been out of it for a while, so I picked up some of the Kirkland flavored, and I used to drink that way back at the very beginning. And I did this maybe like 3 weeks ago, and I had some, or maybe 4 weeks ago. Anyway, very recently. It messed me up big time. It totally messed with my kind of hunger satiety type situation. I found after I drank one, my body was all confused. I know that sounds weird, but it was almost like it it was thinking, "Oh, I think you just fed me, but something's not right about this feeding." Does that make sense? It the flavoring
Yeah.
triggered something, and I ended up drinking like 2 or 3 a day, and I just went with it. I'm like, "This is gonna be awesome experiment to see what happens." And it did. It just totally messed up what I did, and I didn't get cravings, but then I found that I started having this weird, like, I was that the ghrelin kind of leptin, if you've heard of those, the hormones, with your ghrelin kind of basically like your stomach, it's I always say, remember GER for your stomach's growling, that hunger signal. And leptin is basically the signal that'll try to tell you when you're full. And I know they make foods that now can bypass that. And that's why these modern hyperfoods are so, you can just eat them. They've learned to kind of bypass those. But it's like it messed that up. So I was literally hungry. So I did. I went with the experiment and went, okay, I'm going to try to eat a little bit of meat. And I could tell I didn't want to eat it, but I could eat it. It was this, and it's a strange thing that I never had happen. So I'd love to get like 30 people who are doing carnivore for a while and just say, drink 2 of these a day every day and see if it messes you up and then stop. It'd be fun to do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that'd be
just
interesting.
because you said you kind of have those cravings that come up once in a while, then once you have something, then they stay.
Mhm.
I don't know what you think
Yeah.
about that. Did you notice anything
Yeah.
when you drank the flavored ones like that?
Um, yeah, I mean, it, I noticed, well, first of all, I noticed that if I had one, I would want another one, which, like with water, you just drink water, and as long as as long as you've drinking enough water, you don't need to drink water again until you're thirsty again, right? Where that, even though I wasn't necessarily thirsty, I wanted to have another one. And then I notice it makes me want to snack. And I normally just do not snack. I eat twice a day, sometimes even just once, but most of the time twice a day, and that's it. Um, but then, like if I had one of those drinks in the evening, I'm like, what can I eat? I'm like, wait a minute, why do I want to eat? It's like something in your mind is like telling you like go and eat something or whatever. You need
Yeah.
to feed the sugar or whatever, right? And then it's like, wait a minute, but why? So, but before doing carnivore, like, you're in that groove that you don't even really recognize that. So like you sit there and you drink whatever it is, your sparkling or your soda or whatever you're drinking, and it keys you like it wants you to feed on more sugar. And so then you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna go get something to eat, and you don't realize. And that's part of the bad thing when you're not doing a low carb diet is that you're just feeding on that sugar and the cravings, you're not really eating because you're hungry. It's just the cravings that, you know, is
Yeah.
doing it.
So that's interesting. You found very similar thing then, because like I said, that same thing for me, and because
Hmm.
I don't really have that necessarily snack. I had that hunger response more than a snack response these days. So that's why I went, and because I always usually have some meat that's in the fridge that's been cooked, that's the leftovers.
Hmm.
Just kind of how I do my meals these days. I overdo it, then have some left, and then I nibble on what's left before. Then whatever I cook that day, there's some left. So I just keep this continual, because that way, if I do get hungry, like tonight, if I did get hungry, I know there's something ready to go without any thinking, without anything. I can just go eat it cold.
Yeah.
And that's work for me.
All right. So we have a comment here I wanted to bring up. Chad reminds me of
Breaking
Mike
Bad.
from Breaking Bad.
So-
You ever gotten that before?
I actually have. Yeah. I don't know why, but yeah.
Uh,
And who was it?
yeah, but
Somebody else said I was like, oh, what's it? I can't even think of his name now. Somebody said one time almost could be like Woody Harrelson's brother, but I don't see that. But maybe.
yeah, maybe a
I
little
don't
bit.
know. You know, I have heard
Um,
that. That's so funny though.
William says, so you're saying that cheesecake I was eyeballing was that bad? I was at Whole Foods today buying duck eggs and found air fried pork rinds and a wool beanie for my head. Yeah. Do you eat pork
That's
rinds,
funny.
Chad?
I used to. I think I had them last year, maybe a year ago. I had a few. I'm gonna get some again because I picked up an air fryer on sale at Costco, like 39 bucks. Seems to be working. And I was curious to make a couple things, and I'll see what the family thinks of some, you know, carnivore snacks kind of thing. But I don't really
Mm.
eat them, so I'm just gonna do it strictly to, do it, make a video, and see what I think and see what the family thinks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I pretty much kind of stopped all that.
Michael agrees that you look like Mike from Breaking Bad.
Nice. That is
Uh,
funny.
all right. So everybody out there, put in the comments what you think about, the whole topic here with, um, having a treat, or if you consider it cheating, or and what you do. Like, so let's say that you do slip up, you eat something that you shouldn't do, that you shouldn't eat. What do you do then to get yourself back on track? And while they're working on those in the comments, Chad, what would you say is a good thing that you should do when you do find yourself, doing this? So you mentioned, for instance, your your kid's birthday, that you'll have some cake.
Yep.
What do you do, like, with, focus wise, with your mind and so forth, to make sure that you don't continue that way and you get right back on track?
One thing I wanted to say, I was gonna ask William how much duck eggs are at the store because he mentioned duck eggs. I'm curious to try them. So what do I do? I think it was just all the time I've had at this. I don't think I would have tried to tackle it in the first year. I think I would have been careful and just say no and try to be strong. Keto for 1 year, I learned that I can overdo, and I started. I literally remember the day my wife and I were eating these chocolate, like, almond flour bars, thinking this is so good. This there's something wrong with this because these things full of Lily's chocolate, full, just flat out baked cookie bars, kind of like a flat bread style thing. And I was just like, this is wrong. So I think it's time. And I know if I have 2 bites, I have no desire for any more. And the one time I had a bite of my boys from Costco, one of those chocolates, and it's like 7 pounds of sugar, basically. I actually didn't like it, and I used to like it. So to me, I think it's just time will help most people, but I think you have to make sure that you stay away until you know that you can have a bite and leave it. If you had more than a bite, I know it's easy to say willpower, and that just doesn't work because you have so much going against you. The one thing I did tell myself is if I ever was going to kind of have a treat on carnivore, I was only going to have a keto treat. And I figured that was a safe bet to just say, hey, I'll fall back and I'll have something keto, even if it's one of the keto packaged things at the store that aren't really good keto. I'd rather have that at least than a full out blown Snickers bar or something else. But I also found these days there's so many good carnivore recipes out there for, like, what are they, the whoopie things that Kelly Hogan made pretty popular, where you take 1 part egg, 1 part cream cheese, make them like a little crepe, and then use whipped cream in between. You can do that carnivore cheesecake that I've seen people make, which is just basically, cream cheese and some egg. And sometimes I've seen people like whip up the egg whites so they're fluffier. So there's all these things that you can do on carnivore and stay within the realm, I think, these days, and avoid the sweetener. And even if it's the carnivore ice cream that's been really popular, I know that Dr. Kilt's one, a lot of people like his recipe. Again, I think you got to be careful with it. And if you've got a food addiction problem, boy, just be careful with making it like a weekly thing until you're in control of it. So that's kind of what
Mm,
I think. I think time's going to heal it, and stay within the carnivore realm. And I think you won't feel as bad mentally. And they're okay. Cause I ate a lot of cream. I ate a lot of frozen cream, even in the beginning. But I would put mine in little candy molds, like the little silicone molds that were probably, yay big. And that way it was portion control. Because otherwise, if I had a whole quart, I don't know about you, but if there's a bag of anything, I was that kind of person that couldn't. I'll just scoop some of the ice cream off the top and make it even. That was my, you know what I mean? And then have that until it's all gone. So I also knew what my problem was. Anything in a bag. Like, even if I was going to buy a treat, it would be better for me to buy a treat of like 32 bags of Doritos than a big bag, because at least I could control and say, okay, I'm only going to allow myself one a day. And then with the
mm,
ice cream thing for me, when I went carnivore at first, that you know, my fault in the beginning to carnivore was too many pork rinds, too much sour cream, and too much cream. But if I had that in a portion that was like 1 ounce, then I could say, okay, I'll have two of these after my meal. Just as maybe a tip or a thought or an idea.
yeah. So I completely agree with you with the thought process of early on trying to just stay away from it. And I think that's one of the things that hurt me. So I started carnivore in July of 2022. And I was a few months in when we kind of got to the holidays, like thinking about Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas time, right? And I was like, oh, I've been doing really good. I've lost a good amount of weight. And it's okay. I'm going to have like this Christmas cookie or whatever it was, right? And for me, that wasn't a good idea yet at that point. And
Yeah.
it was like one cookie turned into two, and then like the next day it turned into a couple more or something, right? And it started snowballing on me, and I had to catch myself and stop and reset myself again. So um, that's a very good key point, that if you're really new on carnivore, that you need to be very careful about any kind of treats like that, and um, just whatever slipping up. Let me go real quick. The answer for your duck eggs: six
Yeah, I
dollars
saw
for a
that. I was
half a
just that's
dozen.
why I was looking this way at my thank you for
Yeah.
that. That's the problem. They're so expensive, and I'd rather just eat meat for that. That's my, you know,
Oh, wait,
the
before I bring that
kilts.
one up, I want to go to this one.
Yeah.
But we'll go to kilts in a second. I want to bring this one up.
Okay.
Looking at both of you, I say you can have a cheat snack here and there. Someone like me, where I am at, no, not at this stage of my weight loss. I need to stick to the plan until I am down a lot more. And that goes back to what you
Yeah.
were talking about with early on. Just make sure that you really concentrate on your diet and get things right and start losing the weight and so forth. And then as things get more comfortable for you, then maybe that's where it's okay to have that
And
treat and so forth.
and that's where I've almost become this different person about I've never been against keto. I think you got to be really careful with keto, and keto has to be a clean keto. I think carnivore is way better than keto, but that's my opinion. But with keto, there's so many of these treats where you can stay in keto. And that's why I also kind of said, even in this carnivore, like, which we're going to get to in a second with the kilts ice cream, there's lots of ways around that. So I agree with you, man, 100%. And again, that time I had a year of keto, and then like, that first year of carnivore. So that puts me in kind of like, where you're at, Brian. Like I was in, 12, 13, 14, 15 months, and I was still having these ice cream treats. And then I finally just said, yeah, I'm doing the same thing I did on keto. I have to stop this 100%.
Yeah.
And it wasn't too hard because I already had that year, like you've got this years of experience, a year of experience behind you now. So you
Mhm.
kind of know.
So let's go to that Kilt's ice cream. So where can I get the Kilt's ice
Yeah.
cream?
Just
I know
Google
he
up
has it. There you go. All right,
on
go
his
ahead.
website.
Yep.
Yeah, just Google up Dr. Kiltz. I don't know what his website is, but just Dr. Kiltz,
See if I
and
can find it. Yeah. So he's got the
he has it
recipe
on
out
there. He
there,
has a
and you
bunch of
can do it for
recipes
yourself.
for stuff. And, I think too, he has it seems like every week, but I think he's pretty on top of what he's doing. I don't think
Yeah.
it would hurt if you had it once a week, if you were really in control and really on top of it and you truly did have a small amount. But like Michael, don't go to Dr. Kiltz's website. Don't do the ice cream. That's the
All
fact,
right. So I
And
just
one
show
thing I'm
this
going
real
to say
quick
too
here.
is like sometimes I forget to say things about stuff like that. Like, yes, if you've got an addict problem, stay away. I forget to mention eggs a lot, and that's why I was curious about duck eggs, because I can't do eggs because I'm allergic to the whites. I can do the yolks, but it's too much of a pain to separate them for what little I get out of them. So sometimes I forget to mention, but I did eat a lot of eggs in the beginning. Eggs can be really good, man. If you make like this kind of egg pudding thing, I know it's like an Asian thing, because in the islands it was even a common thing where you mix up eggs and cream or something, then you bake them, and it's kind of like this egg cream custard, I guess you could call it, kind of like an egg custard, because that's all it would be, and it's pretty good stuff.
All right, let's catch up on a couple of comments here that people are putting in the chat. Simpson says, I honestly don't have any desire for sweets since carnivore. If anything, I find myself wandering in the kitchen and grazing, even if not hungry. Yeah, that's good.
I
Some people are
still
really
open
good
the
with that right
fridge
away.
sometimes. I don't know why. Sometimes I look in the fridge and think, okay, what's in there for tomorrow? And I know what's in there for tomorrow, but it's this weird habit, and it's still, I don't actually graze as and eat anything, but that's take your age and figure out when you learn to open a cupboard at 7 years old, and just take that math, and you've got whatever years of opening a cupboard to see what's in it.
Yeah. And Michael said, for me in the past, starting to snack here and there will lead me down a road of no return. This is working, and I need to get my life back more than having a snack. Yep. And that's this always brings us back to the same point of everybody is different. Everybody's body reacts differently. So for some people, they can do the snacking, and it's fine, and they can have something and then go right back into the diet right away. And other people, and it sounds like Michael's one of them, that it doesn't work for them. They just go into that vicious cycle. So they're best to just stay away from having any types of snacks and just stay strict on the diet.
I've been I don't know. I like experimenting a lot with myself and trying different things, and this whole breaking habits and stuff is really big for me. And trying to read a few books on habits, I think, I'm on pretty good track and kind of have thought what some of these people do. And sometimes these triggers or responses are also not what you think they are. And I tried to say this in a video the other day, and it kind of came out convoluted. So I'll try it here. If Friday night you have at home, you have movies, and whatever time you watch it, say 7 o'clock, you're going to watch movies. So you have some chips when you're watching movies. And you're like, okay, I want to quit these chips. Now, everything that I've read in different books and different kind of things, that habit of breaking the chips might not be tied as much to the chips as you think. It's also just tied to that Friday movie night and picking out a movie and going to go sit down for a movie. And the theory that I wanted to get across that got kind of messed up in that other video was move your video to Thursday night that you're going to watch, and then don't have chips with the movie. Have them while you're picking out a movie or doing something else beforehand. And then you can start separating those two. I mean, if you can get away without chips, all the better. But it's one of those things that if you could get in control of that, where you then can sit and watch the movie on Thursday night without having chips because you had them earlier. And then if you jump back to that Friday, eventually you'll feel like I don't need chips with the movie, but then you put that new habit in place, but then you kill that one that was short lived of you having a few chips while you pick out the movies. That makes sense. That habit would have only been, say, like a 2 months old.
Mm,
So that's easy to get rid of, but that long term one. Does that kind of make sense what I'm saying? Like sometimes these breaking habit things are near impossible if they're really ingrained. And I think
right.
there's little tricks you can do like that to also get out of that, because I think these habits are why people have a treat or a snack or a cheat or fall or anything else. It's just intrinsic to reach for something. It's like when we were talking about having the drink and you want one more when they're flavored. It's
Yeah.
if you're like me, and I'm gonna see if you smile and kind of laugh. It's like you have one, you think, "Oh, I should have some chips with this," right? So you go get the chips. And then you eat chips and you're thinking, "Oh, well, I need another one to wash it down." And that was my excuse. You know what I mean? You're kind of like, "Oh, I'll have one and kind of wash it down." Then you're like, "Oh, my mouth's all clean. I can have some more chips." It's just
Mhm.
this never-ending cycle. It's
Yeah.
like when I was really overweight and the clothes would get tight, I would blame the dryer and I'd kind of put my hands and arms in the shirt to kind of push it out and think, "Oh, the dumb dryer made these things tighter. I got to stretch it out."
The
And that
shirt
was
is shrinking, right?
a total bad excuse, but that's the kind of stuff, that you do. And it's just so funny when you think back
Yeah.
what you make up in your mind for an excuse. Like, and I think what's worse about it for me is these are like those weird synthetic sport shirts. They don't shrink. If it was all cotton maybe and I washed it hot and dried it hot, it might have shrank. But I wear like these synthetic that don't change at all, no matter what you do to them. So that was like, oh, what an
Yeah.
idiot.
All right, let's see what Diana has to say here. She says, "My dog and I just had a snack of pork rinds. She loves my carnivore lifestyle. Been carnivore since late last May, and I am down from a 2X to a size 12, heading to a size 6. I'll be there by Christmas." Great job,
Awesome.
Diana.
That is
That is
awesome.
great. I'm gonna say it when you were talking about the habit thing, right? Always been a big football fan, especially college and NFL. And like weekends like that's I sit there, watch football, whatever, And the first time that this fall that I turned down a game, I was sitting there and I was like, I guess I want to go in the fridge and see if, or go in the kitchen and see if I can find some chips or something. I'm like, wait a minute, why do I want to do that? I don't eat that stuff anymore. But it's just like
Yeah.
my mind remembered that like I used to do that when I watched football games on TV. So then I was like, oh, I want to go do that again. So it's weird how
I,
that happens.
that book called Atomic Habits, have you heard of that book? It's quite
Hmm.
popular here in the last
Yeah.
year. Reading that, and he's talking about habits, and it was really interesting because there's a lot of stuff like I said I paralleled with, and he gave an example and I forgot exactly what it was, but it's like you're walking down a street and there's a great bakery and you smell it and you go in and you get something to eat and you have it and enjoy it and walk down the street. And there's something with that relation then that walking down that street becomes this, I'm going to get a donut because I enjoyed that moment and kept walking. The dude's not obviously carnivore, so but you associate that with it, and that's like the game. That is that pre-trigger, and there's multiple studies and multiple things that show that's how those things start. Oh,
Yeah.
wait, game. Okay, go get some. And that's why the game things, man. That's why you see all the end caps in the stores, with all the
Oh yeah.
Doritos and all the ball stuff on the Dorito bags. Even, I mean, it's so big that they're putting it on the bags. They know that that's a triggering. And you got to think, man, if you go to a store, you're going to have that there. It's like, oh yeah, season's coming up. I better get some chips. And
Well, and then when you're
I love the
watching,
marketing side of it. It's fascinating.
Yeah, and I was gonna say when you're watching the game, it's the same thing. Like all the commercials are for like food, like chips and whatever else, soda, beer.
Yeah.
It's all of those snack-like type of foods that you see the commercials for during the games. So they definitely know how to market it.
And it's like if you go to the store, if you have something like, I know Michael sounds like, definitely wants to stay away from snacking. And I've said this to other people. If you've got, like, I had a bread issue, bakery issue was probably, I would, I could care less about the candy aisle in a store. It's the bakery that would get me. So I would know too, like in the beginning, if I go after the bakery or way before it opens and go in the opposite door, like the two doors, Costco, I couldn't do this, or Sam's, I can't do this, but other stores, if I knew the bakery was on the left, I'd go in the door to the right to avoid the smell, to go in the
Mm,
store and go to a certain angle, go and get my stuff that I need and come back out. And I know that sounds silly, but to me, it's just those little things you can do that might stop you from smelling that and kind of going, oh, and even if I didn't have it, I just don't even want that kind of that triggering response coming into me. Same thing
yeah.
if you go into a store and even if the fastest way to the dairy section because you're okay with some cheese is through the chip aisle, don't take that aisle. Take a longer route, three rows over and go through like the houseware section or something that you have no desire for to go back and get your cheese and go to the meat department and
Hmm.
then come out. I
Yeah.
love that side of this whole thing. This is one thing I love is just this, figuring this out because that's kind of how my brain is, just thinking of all these little tricks and things.
Yeah. All right, so let's see. Michael says, tried many diets in my life. For the first time in my life, carnivore is the only one that has gotten rid of the thought of food or the cravings that I would have on other diets. So that's great, Michael. Congratulations. That's a huge part of it right there. If you are past those thoughts of that type of food and the cravings, then you're in a diet that is going to be successful long term for you. You're going to be able to keep doing it. You're not going to have to worry about all those cravings, and it's going to work great for you. So that's great. I know you said earlier, I think you were on like 3 months on the diet or something. So you're rather new, but it sounds like you're doing great. So keep up the good work there.
Yeah.
Greg is here, my weight loss life. He says trick or treat, fellas. Hi, fellas. So hello, Greg.
Yep.
And Michael had another comment I was going to bring up here. Um, I messed up the other night. I went to the fridge and grabbed a bag of cheese curds. And instead of taking a few, I brought the bag back to my chair and watching TV. 20 minutes later, the bag was almost gone. I've
You and
done
me
that kind of
both,
stuff
man.
with
That's
dairy. Yeah. Cheese. And that's the other thing for me, like cheese, it'll stall my weight loss big time. So I gotta
yeah.
be careful with eating cheese. But I've done that before. Like I went to Aldi and got like the cheese curds packages, and I just end up eating the whole thing. So I got to stay away from it. I just want to eat the whole
Yeah.
thing when I get
Same,
it.
and that's even the problem with like, block. Like I quit cheese for probably well over 2 years, maybe almost 3 years. I quit cheese and I started eating it again because it's working for my no gallbladder situation. For some reason, aged Parmesan cheese, because it's made with raw milk, it's A2 dairy, and it's aged. It has all the things when I tested cheeses that seem to work for me. So I know why I'm eating it. And that is the only reason I eat it. And I eat kind of a set amount and I eat a little bit before, during, and then after the meal. And it totally slows down my digestion and it doesn't just too much information rip through you with no gallbladder. But when I was early on and cheese was okay, so I would have cheese, I would have that problem where I'd eat too much. So I started getting those like cheese sticks that are in the wrap, you know what I mean? Like the string cheese sticks or something in little teeny containers. Because I knew if I had a whole bunch, I would kind of, oh, just a little bit more. Oh, I can just look at that. You don't even notice the slice I'm taking. You know what I mean? I had all the excuses in the world. Oh man, it was bad. I just think how stupid. But it is funny how everybody rationalizes it. I'm sure
Hmm.
exactly. Oh wait, when I did the cream cheese for whatever I'm making, I didn't cut it straight, so I should make it straight. Oh, look at a little triangle. I mean, there's all those things. But at least for me, like the packages was easy. I get the little cow round, red things for cheese or
Mm,
something like that, or
yeah,
the string cheese in the little individual wrapper. And at least I could force myself to say one a day. So I think that works too.
yeah.
I get over cheese.
So Michael was talking about the Aldi cheese curds. He said, "Damn
Yeah.
Aldi cheese curds."
I can tell you, I
Uh,
don't know how many times with that Costco sized tub of sour cream and pork rinds I'd buy, and I'd be like, hang on a second. I thought I had some left. And like, a few days later after buying them, that is like, yeah.
yeah. Simpson says my biggest trigger
Popcorn.
right now is popcorn. My husband cooks up a bunch of about every night. Yeah, that's tough. I mean, there's really nothing good in popcorn to be honest.
No.
So, um,
I
that's
never
a
really
tough
liked
one.
popcorn. Plus I'm allergic to corn, so I
Hmm.
don't do well with it. When I did eat it, I could eat it and save because I didn't like the kernels. You know, like how a dog can like just wolf down food and then you find out then they just like spit all the stuff. I could eat popcorn and save all the kernels in like that pod of my cheek and then just like spit them out after I was done. I don't know. That's just such a weird, probably shouldn't share some stuff online, but it's out now.
No, that's okay. Somebody
Yeah.
else is like, "Yep, I do that too." So,
Yeah.
all right, Diana says it's easier to substitute than to go cold turkey. Now I spend more time buying clothes than food, and that keeps me going strong. It's easy to avoid garbage food when I see those who buy it. Mm,
It's true.
yeah.
I do think like the substitution, I don't know if you're saying to substitute even like food or if sometimes like just because you mentioned the buying clothes, if changing one thing, you're still doing another. Not saying like you're doing another in a bad way of buying clothes, but there's those things. One thing I do like about Carnivore is just the simplicity of shopping and the simplicity of dishes. My kids still make enough dishes that I do dishes a lot, but at least my dishes now are just so simple. I wash off my knife, wash off the cutting board. I eat with chopsticks all the time, probably 99% of my dinners. So then I just wipe those off and put them back in the drawer and I'm done. If I do sous vide stuff or the grill, it's pretty easy to wipe it. And I probably cook 98%, 99% of my food outside these days because I
Mm.
found it doesn't smell up the house. And, I just have one of those Camp Chef brand 3 burner burners outside. And I like that because it's gas and it's hot. And I just, use my carbon steel pans out there or have the grill and I don't have to clean up all the cooking meat on a counter inside the house is just, I don't know about you guys, but just way too much work to clean up all the time.
Well, and it's still 99 degrees, you said, where you're at. So,
Yeah.
right.
Well, even if it's 115, I'm out there cooking in front of a grill, and sometimes I think I'm nuts. But since going carnivore, here's the interesting thing. My tolerance to heat is way better. I know it's insanely hot, but I'm not sweating like a dog or a pig or
Mm,
whatever sweats the most. And I just have this tolerance. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I can get out there and do it. And granted, I'm underneath, in the shade, but it is interesting how the tolerances of carnivore, because this gets brought up, things like you don't get sunburn as easy, dandruff goes away, like my eye floaters have gone away, my eyesight gets, like all these little things. And it's this heat tolerance that I've gotten way better with. Well, I know it's hot, it doesn't bug me as much, or the cold. I am curious if other people have noticed that too.
mm. Yeah, so for me, definitely the sun thing with not getting sunburnt, I've definitely noticed that this year. Yeah, I don't really sunburn at all, and I've been, I tan fairly easy. Or if I do, if I'm out like all day long, I might be a little red, and the next day it's tan type of thing. Um,
Yeah.
so that's definitely one thing I have noticed so far. That sometimes in the evening here it's been getting a little bit cooler, and I guess maybe it's because of the weight that I've lost because I've lost like 80 pounds. I actually kind of get a little cold, and I never used to. I always used to be a person that ran on hot, and like I was always hot all the time and stuff. Um, And sometimes like I'm working in my office or something in the mornings or something, and my fingers are like cold, like the tips of my fingers are like really cold. And I'm like, man, why is that happening? It's like, I guess it is kind of a little bit cooler in here, but that kind of stuff never used to happen to me. So again, I always
Yeah.
ran hot, but now I really notice the cold. So I don't know,
The
I might have to
first
move to a
winter,
place like Phoenix if I get a little bit
there
older
you
here.
go. Yeah. The first year, I noticed that big time. The interesting thing about the fingertips, I've heard also sometimes it's like you're not getting enough nutrients that can cause cold fingertips, like you've got to eat more. If you get
Hmm.
really cold fingertips, you can eat more. But I also think it is just like I said, I don't know. I could see where that can happen, but I also think like you losing 80 and I lost 100 pounds of insulation. That's a lot of insulation to lose.
Yeah.
And that first year in the cold, even here, I was like, man, and it gets cooler here in the winters, there's no doubt. But it was like cold because before I would never even need to wear pants. And then I would now, like, I have to wear pants and a jacket and a hat. And, I either have like a wool ball cap kind of thing or like a beanie cap that I have to wear all the time because my head gets, because you're like me, I keep this really short, like really, cut down. And here's one for you. I also noticed too that my head felt colder on the pillow the first year. Like, I don't know if
Hmm.
it was because it was exposed more or something, but I could feel a different feel. Like, when I'd lay my head down on the pillow, I would usually be the kind at night that would start almost getting like, with blankets, almost kind of warm kind of thing. And I noticed sometimes like, oh, it's kind of cold, like, in a weird way. I
Yeah.
don't know if you noticed that. You know what I mean? Maybe it's just what I was noticing here, but
Yeah, I haven't noticed cold, but I'm a person that runs hot. So I used to always notice at
yeah.
night that I'd wake up and like the pillow would be so hot and my head would be hot and I have to move positions on the pillow to a spot that was cooler. And that doesn't really happen anymore. So I don't notice cold, but I'm not hot like I used to be of the pillow.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a change there. Yeah. All right. It'd be interesting to see any of you out there, if you've experienced some of the same things, if you've been on the diet for a while. Um, do you have the same thing where you're more tolerant to heat? Have you noticed some of the things like I was talking about the coldness in my fingers sometimes? Like right now, my fingers are fine. It's a little bit warmer, I think, today, so it's nice in here. And my fingers are fine, but sometimes in the mornings, like I'll be working and typing up something. I'm like, boy, my fingertips are really cold.
It'll be interesting to see if you have it next year.
Yeah,
That'll
yeah.
be really interesting by next year because I know that first year I noticed all that and that, like my fingertips definitely were cold all the time.
So William says the heat doesn't bother me and cold temps are getting bearable. Sunburn non-existent.
Going
Just
on two
tan
years.
going on 2 years. Good.
Here's one other
Yeah.
thing, and I've said this for a few people, and some have noticed it. Like when I get up in the morning and flick on the bathroom lights, I get up at 5:30, say, so an hour before sunrise. And I turn that on. It's still bright and I kind of, but it's not this like, oh, just this horrifying thing. I just kind of have to squint down, then I can get in to the bathroom and start shaving, doing my morning thing. Where before it would be this bad thing. And the same thing if I would go from, say, whatever, like a bright room, and I would walk into my bedroom at night from the outside hall because it would be like so pitch black that I couldn't, stub my toes kind of thing because you couldn't see furniture. And now when I
Mhm.
come in, I actually have some night vision left.
Hmm.
Have you noticed any of that, Brian, or anybody else, even like William, since you mentioned, or anybody else there? Have you ever noticed that I don't know what you would call that. I don't know what
I
to
don't know.
call that, but I think you know what I'm trying to say, though, that the
Yeah.
difference of bright light. And I know there's been a bunch of stuff about sunglasses and that they're not really healthy to have sunglasses. And I'm trying to remember what the one carnivore doctor lady's name is who's on New Jersey, who's the eye doctor. She's done a couple things on that. And I think when I get glasses, which I'm going to try to get really soon, I'm not going to get the transition lenses this time. I'm just going to get straight glasses and not have them get darker when I go outside and see how that goes because of
Yeah.
that. And she's been carnivore for like, I don't know, 10, 14 years or something.
Hmm.
You know what I'm talking about? Is it Lisa Wideman or something like that? Linda Wideman?
Oh, oh, Dr. Is it Weidman?
I think that sounds correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So Simpson says that her night vision is better. I haven't noticed it myself, I don't think. I guess I'll have to pay
Yeah.
attention tonight.
Lisa Wideman or something like that.
Wideman? Yeah, I guess maybe it is
Weedman
Wideman.
or something.
I've heard the
She
name
has
a
some
few
really good
times.
stuff to
Yeah.
watch about, the eyes and how they react and with the sunglasses. And it really made me think, okay, I'm not going to get transition lenses or, when I used to work on the boats, I would still use polarized glasses when I worked on the boats. And I would do it again today if I went out because the water and snow are different. But
Hmm. Yeah. So yeah, I
that
haven't
is
noticed
interesting
really the
though that
night
other
vision
people
thing though.
notice that.
Yeah.
You
So
haven't
I'll
noticed
have
that
to
yet?
pay more attention tonight. I don't think I've noticed it,
Yeah.
but maybe I'm just not paying attention to it.
Well,
I
just
don't know.
look
So
at
I'll
your
try to
light
pay
outside
attention.
your room and then run in full steam when you turn off all the lights.
Yeah,
If you
see what
hit
happens.
something, you don't have it, right? It's like
Oh, yeah,
how do
that'll
you
really
test
be
that?
testing my inflammation at that point, right? If I run into
Yeah.
something.
Yep.
All right. So I think we're caught
It
up
is
on comments
interesting
here right
though.
now. Yep. So what other things have you noticed? You're what, about 3 years?
Almost 4
4 years
years.
on Carnivore? Okay.
Almost 4
So what
years.
other
Yeah,
things have you noticed over the time?
Come up in December it'll be 4. Boy. I mean, obviously just the mental clarity and how I've changed. I'll say this, and I was going to I think that Carrie Homestead Howe did this little video on like the levels of carnivore. And I just kind of I just made a comment saying, dude, it's not over yet. And I I want to do a video in a fun way that's not anything. And I'm sure there's some people like Kelly Hogan who've been doing this 14 years or Baker that's been doing it 10 can look back at me and say, okay, this hasn't changed or this has changed some. But I think there is a kind of a plateau point where it just becomes life. And I think I might be close to that, but it's still changing and what I eat is changing. And I am also experimenting because I'm always trying to find the optimum of all optimums. And I just, again, have fun with the experimenting side of it. The first year when I hit that weight, I'm 5'11", so you kind of have a base of where my height's at. And like I had said, I'd quit looking at the scale at 275 pounds, and I know I went well over that, but I don't know how far over that. And was thinking 200 pounds was my goal because everybody said, "Yeah, dude, you're 57 years old." So I'm 60 now. So 57 years old, 200 pounds is going to be awesome if you can get it. You're never going to get back to the weight you were, in your 20s. That's just impossible at your age. So at 200 pounds is kind of like when I'm like, okay, good, I'm here. And it did take a little longer to get that last, extra 20, 25 pounds off. Right now I'm at 185, but I'm usually at 178. But I've been eating more cheese and I've been eating way more because I'm doing this carnivore strong thing, with Dave and Breaking Thin Guy. And I've been overeating and working pretty hard to see if I can put on muscle. Everything I've read about this is that I want to kind of overeat and have enough protein so I don't get into that. And I'm really stable at this 185 now. It's really creepy how stable my weight is. And Chafee said this, how stable he is. Like literally for the last 2.5 years, I'm like it's spot on at 178, 179, maybe 177. And unless I do something weird, like totally decide to eat less for some reason, it'll drop down. Or if I'm like, oh, this is so good, I'm going to have another one because I had a good steak, it'll go up about a pound. So once I hit that plateau, I would walk by a window and I'd go like, whoa, that's me. That's a trip. Like, what I mean? You look at, and you, like, sometimes I just stand there in front of the mirror and kind of like, God, this is just insane. Like, I never
Mm.
thought I'd get like this. And I think after about a year, that kind of started going away because I got used to the new me. So I do think too, like, even there's these, besides other things that just change, I think this is a weird psychology thing of how you see yourself. Because I don't know if you ever do that, like when you're shaving or standing in front of the mirror, you're kind of like, wow, this is really wild. Do you ever do that? Like, just kind of go, this is pretty wild, and kind of like, it's just weird because all this was here and it's not. Do you do that?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I still got a lot of body fat to lose, like especially in the stomach area, right? So,
Hmm.
I still see that, but yeah, and especially like if I look back at like pictures I had from before, it's just amazing. I'm like, man, I can't believe the difference. It's incredible.
I'm curious if other people do that too, if they kind of look. And I think that was an interesting thing because that's something that's not about what I eat or anything else that did change because now I don't really think about it. It's not that I don't remember the old me or whatever, but I don't kind of do those weird double takes, and stuff like that. Now I'm kind of trying to see like it's only been a few weeks of working out. I'm like, no, I'm not getting muscle yet. But then I got to think how long carnivore took. So I know the muscle thing's going to take me a year. Probably,
Mm.
it might take a few months before I start to see changes, but I'm
Mhm.
hoping to have this huge change. So it'll be interesting if you don't get cold fingertips in a year and if I get way more muscly. That'll
Yeah.
be the silly things that. So what's healed is just too many things. Like no more weird dry cracked heels. My eye floaters have gone. My tinnitus is almost always gone away completely. When I eat cheese, it comes back a little, which I notice because I'm eating the cheese again for the no gallbladder. But I can get it to go away really quickly, and it wasn't as bad. I have no more migraines. I'm still rubbing my nose some because I still get really bad histamine response with meat. And this just happened, and this is going to be something I'm going to do a video on when I figure it out. I got some lamb on sale the other day, and I rarely ever have lamb just because I just haven't. I really like it. It's really good. And when I eat it, I didn't have enough of it to really test, so I'm going to go buy a bunch of lamb and see what happens because I've heard that you don't get a histamine response because of the way they age it differently. Because all the other meat is what age 60 days in the vac packs, wet aged. Isn't it 60 days or
Mm.
is it
I
30
think
days? Now my
I think
brain
it's
just skipped.
60.
I think it's 60 days, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
And so there's a business center Costco near us, which is different than the regular Costco. So there, if you've ever had a business center Costco, they're wild. I'm going
Mm.
to do a video next time I go in because they have like literally a walk-in for like the meat and the deli and everything, like a complete walk-in. And they sell everything by the whole pack. So the big vac packs that you see
Mm.
of like the whole loins, that's the only way they sell meat. Or they sell it by the case. So you can buy like a case of the vac packed whole loin
Mm.
meat
Wow.
and stuff. And they actually have whole lamb there. Like it's just wrapped up in this like tight, you can just totally see it's like hanging there like the shape of a lamb. I don't think I'm going to do that because I don't know if I can process it properly. But they have a half lamb in a box. It just sounds so funny to say. Here's a half a lamb in a box. So I don't know how processed it is, if it's like big chunks. Because the one time I went in to get ribs, I'm like, oh, I love beef ribs. And they had them really cheap. So I bought this like big, huge pack of beef ribs and I got them home and they were like the whole rib. Like they didn't do any processing to it. So it was, just had these huge, like 2 foot long ribs, kind of thing to deal with. And I'm like, oh, I wish I'd known. So I kind of want to find out what's in this case of a half lamb. If they literally just took the lamb and cut it in half and then just cut it in quarters and crammed it in a box like you would see on some, gangster show of what they put the guy in the 55-gallon oil drum like. You know what I mean? I don't know. So I gotta find out what they do with this half lamb. So yeah. But I want to try that because if I could get rid of this histamine thing I get, I might start eating a ton of lamb.
Yeah. All right. So going back here, William, talking about the light again. William says light isn't squinty for me now, but I have had a habit of closing my left eye in the blazing sun. Were born with I was born with lazy eye in the left eye, or cocked eye, but had an operation at 18 months old.
I see
Okay.
which I kind of favor. I probably still would close my left if I did it because I favor my right eye.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think like I said, that's the kind of stuff that's changed for me long term, and just how I deal with grace for people. I think also you go through these phases like some people do, where I quit coffee at 2 years, and I'm glad I did because I feel way better. I always say try to quit coffee at some point, see what you feel like, and see if you get better. Then when you reintroduce it, see what you feel like when you reintroduce it. And just try that every 6 months, a year, whatever. And maybe if you can drink it, more power to you. I'm never saying quit forever. I'm just saying quit to see if you feel better and then decide I love my coffee, but I don't I notice a little something, but it's not that big a deal and I like the flavor or whatever it does for me. So I do think test everything is also another thing that this is like a never ending journey for me because it's like me going into the lamb thing, me doing the cheese thing that it took me a long time to test, the different stuff because I tend to clean out for say 3 months where I'm just literally eating meat, salt, water. Then I'll try something for a week and see what it does. So
Yeah.
I think
Are
it just
you?
keeps getting better. It's all the little small stuff. Less and less it hasn't all gone away, but I'm pretty good. I'm gonna do some probably pictures of me without my shirt on at some point for the carnivore strong thing and see how I've changed. But I'm pretty good for where I'm at for a guy that's lost over 100 pounds, for where I was, because
Hmm.
that was pretty
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
That was definitely, I think I have something on. I could do this. I did this on another live stream. I think I have a thing where I had this. I know somebody's like, "No, man, you're an old man. Keep your shirt on." You know. So like just for grins, if you don't want to see me without a shirt on as I'm standing here, let me find this.
Well, you're looking for that. Are you predominantly beef that you eat then?
Yeah, pretty much all beef. I quit chicken about 6 months in, and I quit
Mm.
pork about 1 year in, and I'll still have pork because it's so cheap with beef, but it has to be with beef. And I do it maybe like once every 3 months. And I'm kind of finding I'm probably about done with it. The other thing is, I don't, like most people, budget's tight. That's why I eat a lot of chuck steak. But I also love chuck steak. So even if I was rich, I would still eat chuck steak. But if I can buy a bunch of chuck on sale, say like I think it's like 447 or something at Sam's Club when it's on sale, and ribeyes are on sale at 995. And whatever ratio I buy, if I can keep my meat cost at an average of $6 a pound or under, I'm pretty happy. I try not to go over that average. And that's how I get my ribeyes. That way I don't think, oh, I'm paying $14 for this or $10. Because if I eat a bunch of chuck, it's easy to afford a ribeye kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do this. But you can kind of see to compare if anybody wants to know what a 60-year-old on doing carnivore. Let me get this.
Let's see. Let me switch this. Oops. How did I? All right. How do I switch this?
Drag the one image back to the
There we
other.
go.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
So that's me at 60 years old. I don't think that's too bad for after losing over
Oh, yeah,
100.
that's great.
That's not really too much because I know a lot of people fear that. I wasn't quite that. I had more loose skin in the beginning, and some of it's gone away.
Mhm.
So I think it is one of those things that people are curious about, and some people will have more, some people will have less. I know that first year collagen powder is supposed to do nothing, but I hedged my bets and I had collagen powder every day. I ate a lot of really knuckly foods. I made my own, like when I would get like the big bones that I got from the Costco thing, like, bake down, make bone broth. If it gels up, it's good, because obviously bone broth should be gelatin when it's in the fridge. So if I made a bunch of meat stuff and had that gelatin, I would reheat that gelatin part of it and drink it, like bone broth or soup all the time. So I also
Hmm.
kind of had that feeling going into it. I knew to hedge my bets because they always said that works. And I did OMAD because I liked it. And I've heard that intermittent fasting works, and I've heard it doesn't work. And I've heard autophagy doesn't matter. You know how you hear all these, like, what do you think on the autophagy thing?
I don't know. um,
That's,
I
because
mean,
you're just
I
like me. You just,
yeah, when it comes to intermittent fasting, I've pretty much been doing that. But I still have a decent amount of body fat to go, so I don't know. I've been I've been eating usually twice a day, but there's like a 16 to 18 hour fast period in there, right? But whether or
uh-huh.
not that really makes a difference, I don't know.
Yeah.
So Simpson found chuck steaks for $2.99 a pound yesterday. That's a great price.
Wow. That's really
Yeah,
good.
that is.
The last time I went into Sam's, I forgot what I walked out. I bought a bunch of chuck, and I think I bought a couple ribeyes, something else, and I know it was like $350. I would have bought more, but I just couldn't. I just couldn't budget. I was out of budget because they still had all these yellow tags of chuck, and I'm just like, oh, I just don't have the. But
Gosh,
I have enough usually on hand. And go
the
ahead.
other day I went to Costco and I spent like $450.
Yeah,
But I mean, it was enough food for basically 3 to 4 weeks. Plus, my dog. We've been getting chicken for my dog and feeding her carnivore diet. So, um,
I do
it's
like
a lot of
Costco
food.
steak better than Sam's Club. I
Hmm.
think Costco, and I like their steaks because they're cut thicker, and I just think it's a little bit better, even though they're both choice and both their prime. I've had both of their grades. I just kind of prefer that, but that's me. It's nothing. But Sam's is so cheap if you get in there in the morning and you have one of their, like, kind of their premium card membership. You get in earlier, like you can get in at 8 o'clock rather than 10 o'clock. And when I had their normal card, I could never get the meat on sale. And then I thought, well, I'll go there and I'll try this, because they kind of had a deal like in my last month. Hey, do you want to upgrade to a premium? For $10 for they prorate it. So I said yeah, and then I was like, oh, bingo! This is the key to getting in early. So now I'm that old dude out there with my card at 7:55, making sure I'm first in line and beeline it back to the meat and quickly grab whatever chucks are, and I just put them all in my basket, and then I kind of decide which ones I want and put the other ones back, which I don't even need to do because there's not that many people buying that much meat in the morning, but
Hmm.
I'm going to make sure I get my pick.
So, Michael, going back to your picture, says you look great.
Yeah,
And
I
and I gotta
appreciate
tell you,
that, man.
I had no idea that you were 60. I thought we were similar in age. I'm 49, about
Yeah,
to turn 50. So you did look great. I had no idea you were 60.
appreciate
It's
that. Yeah. I
unbelievable.
don't think I look like most, and I don't have that attitude of most or whatever. And some of that might just too be my island lifestyle. And, even though I beat myself up on boats in the sun, I think I just kind of, I don't know. I'm pretty mellow about stuff. Drivers still annoy me that drive like idiots. It's not like I'm not a human, but for the most part,
Yeah.
no worries, kind of
Old
thing.
dude at 7:55. Oh,
Yeah. I'll
oh
share
man.
a funny thing that I learned when I lived in the Caribbean. This is just a fun story. The All the people there, I was on a little island called Utila, which is, if you've ever heard of the Bay Islands of Honduras, like Roatan. Roatan's getting kind of popular these days. So there's Roatan going on Utila, and I used to live on Utila back in the 90s. And they do this thing where they're like, all right, and they say all right, but they kind of have this, that lilt to it. They're like, all right. all right. And they always just say all right to everybody. And I know one day I'm just like, what is it with the all right? And they're like, well, we just assume you're going to ask us how we're doing. So we cut that part out and just say all right. And I'm like, that is awesome. You know, I love that kind of thinking. And I noticed it, and probably like about 2 or 3 months into me living there, I only lived there a year, but a year is fairly long when you live on an island of 2,400 people to get to know everybody. And then they would start sharing if they did have problems, and some of them you didn't want to hear, but they would just, yeah, man, we got this problem, man. Look at this boil, man. Look at, no, touch it, man, touch it. And you're like, they're just, you're like, oh, it's okay. I trust it's there. No, it's all hard, man. I don't know why it's hard, and it's just these funny, weird things are like, oh man, my foot, look at this thing, and I loved it though, because that's the kind of thing. So when I moved from Maui to the Caribbean, then compare when I moved from Maui to the mainland here, I think I had more in common with the Caribs because they're more just this, that all right all the time. People don't just come home and close their doors back into their garage and the garage door goes down. That's Phoenix, and everybody's in their air conditioned houses.
Yeah, I was gonna say they just want to get into AC. That's why.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting in Grenada with the all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like, I miss that kind of stuff. And even though I'm kind of very analytical and slower talking, I think on my other videos, because I'm thinking more of what I'm saying, it's just that, I don't know, just there's something about that. I think the carnivore thing too is like that compared with like when I tried the whole going green and plant-based,
Mm.
The people can be pretty vicious if you ask a question. Why is my gut burning so gnarly hard all the time? Shouldn't it be getting better? You're doing it wrong. What's your problem, you idiot? Oh, and then for here, it's like people will help you try to find the solution or give you some grace and say, hey, it's okay. Why don't you try this? Or maybe they're even okay to say, hey, if you're not carnivore, try the keto. And even the keto people seem to be okay to say, well, maybe try doing more, get away from the oxalate foods. That is the one thing I love about the whole carnivore thing.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I love about doing these lives is like you and I really have never had a chance to meet. I think we both seen each other's videos, but we've never had a chance to actually. And I think interacting with somebody is so different when you get a chance to interact, and interacting with people and hearing stories come in, I know when Michael comes over to the house, I won't go, hey, dude, you want a bag of chips?
Poor Michael.
Or Michael.
Yeah.
But it is true, though. It's knowing that stuff that do trigger you. So that's good.
Knowing your body and what works for you and what's going to derail you and so forth. Yeah. So
yeah, that is good though. I'm curious what you were doing in Grenada then, if you were there for a while or just if you noticed it that they were there when you're on vacation or something. I miss the islands. I don't know what I'll probably stick around here maybe, but I always am thinking like Madeira, like which is an island off Portugal. I wouldn't mind going and checking that out to live for a while. They kind of call it the Hawaii of the Atlantic, and it does look a lot like the islands. I was always thinking it'd be nice to have a weird little place out on some nice little green grassy island that has a ton of rainfall, so you never have to worry about water, and have like, I should get used to hectares if I'm ever going to live there, but like, 5 acres and have some lambs and eat my baby lambs.
So he lived there for 14 years for missionaries and lived in the villages.
That is awesome.
Yeah. Definitely.
Did we talk about that? I think we did. Yeah, my brain is gone now. I think we did. I think I remember that now.
About being a missionary?
Yeah, I think now that I remember that. Because, it's funny how, like, I forget sometimes.
Yep. Just briefly. I said, yeah.
Yeah. Now I remember that. Yep.
Ugh.
I know it more for her doing her books. You know, like weird things stick in your head. You know how you do because she wrote. Because my wife does some writing for some stuff, and I know she's done an insane amount of book writing, like stuff. And she's
Hmm.
got a new channel. Go check her out too. People go. I don't know if you care if people post their YouTube
No,
page in your
and
chat. I'd
no,
say
go ahead.
post that up. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, put
I
it
would
in there.
definitely say do that because I
Yeah,
think
put it in
that's the
there. I'll
only
even
way
put
you're
it
going
up
to
on the
do it.
screen.
Yeah.
So we're at like an hour and 20 minutes. Does anybody have any questions for us? We're probably going to wind it down here in the next 10 minutes or so. So if anybody has any questions for us, go ahead and put it in the chat and we can answer those questions.
Yep.
So see, yeah, if you have a YouTube channel and you want to put it in the chat, go ahead and do that as well. And we'll put it up on the screen for people. Here's a question.
Yep.
Brian, I don't know if cereal helped, but lump on my face has gone. Oh, okay. So running tap 12 was taking cereal products. So I don't know if it was just this one, but so Stem Enhance Ultra is the one that it helps support your body's ability to renew your stem cells and so forth. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, I've been taking
I,
that for I don't know 6-7 months or so. That's something Professor Bart K talks a lot about too.
I
He's
was
been
just going
taking
to
it for
say
like 10
Bart K
years.
always
He's
talks
been
about
taking it for
that.
like 10 years. Yeah. Actually,
Yeah.
there's more and more people I've seen that have been taking it. I was just on a live watching a live from semi-retired Bob earlier today, and he was talking about it. I know Dr. Anthony Chafee has links for Cerule on his site and so forth. So yeah, Stem Enhance, she says.
Bart K had a way to say like, oh, here's a way you can get it really, really cheap or something like that too, or almost for free or something. Do you know about that? Yeah, he said that in a live stream one time. There's a way to kind of, if you want to try
Yeah,
it, kind of get some try size or something.
yeah. So what you would need to do is you become an IBO, an independent business owner, and so it's like $25 for the year, right? To like set up uh, your e-commerce and all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you get like a wellness pack. So like you can get like there's I got 3 different ones here. This one is the inflammation support. There's one that's also a joint support, so active, but and then there's the stem cell support and circulation support one, which I'm horrible at putting stuff
Okay.
in my camera. So like I do that, and then if you get 3 new customers doing a wellness pack under you in a month, all your product is free. Um, so that's how it works that way. Like if you get 3 more
Yeah,
people to
that's
sign up
interesting
or
though.
whatever, then you get the free product. And then if you don't, or even like if you get, um, you might only get like 1 product free or something for the next month or something, right? But that's kind of how that works, getting it free. Um, so yeah, there's that option, or you can just not try and bring anybody else in and just buy it yourself, and you pay whatever
Yeah.
for it. So yeah, I think it's definitely helped me out a lot. I've seen a lot of energy from it and so forth. So
Yeah.
Carbatic now Carnivore
Yeah.
says this Sunday I'm interviewing Dave Mack from No Carb Life. Dave's a great
Dave.
guy. I've been following him
Yeah.
since his channel started way back, like I guess a year or so ago, whenever that was. Um, and I've interviewed him before. He's great. So you're gonna have a fun
Yeah.
time interviewing him.
And Dave and I and Chuck from Breaking Thin are doing that thing every 2 weeks about that Carnivore Strong now. So we're getting together every 2 weeks and doing a thing. Lana, that's cool. That's cool. Because yeah, she started up a channel just recently, the Carb Addict now Carnivore, and stuff like that, because she had made some comments and I really liked her comments. I think it's probably the writer in her. She's good at writing and getting the thoughts down, unlike me.
So here's
But yeah,
her
it's cool when more
link.
people get in, you know.
Yeah.
Book coming out this year. Nice.
Yeah. So you can just type in this whole link or just go into at Carb Addict now, Carb Addict now Carnivore, and that'll get you there as well. So
yeah, and I did it. We had a fun chat that's up on my site too at Minimalist Carnivore when do everything.
Yeah. So Diana asked, did either of you have any problems with oxalate dumping? Had a vicious kidney stone 2 months in, just hydrate a lot more and it passed. How about you, Chad?
Nope. I was never a veggie or green leafy eater. And the green junk I did was so far before that it never would have, you know, I tried that when that fat, sick, nearly dead thing came out and kind of said, okay, let's try this.
I used to eat a lot of baby spinach. And I did have some problems with wrist pain mostly, you know, so in the joints. And that's something that happens with the oxalate dumping is it tends to affect you in your joints. So that's something I've had. And like anytime since I've been on carnivore that I've tried having peanut butter, I get pain in my wrists again. So that's another thing that I've seen there.
Show me on the cow where the peanuts are, man. You shouldn't be eating peanut butter.
Carnivore Life says, hello, everyone. I'm late. No problem. Hello.
Yep. Well, I know one thing that I had, and I've mentioned this, and some people probably know it, is I lost my gallbladder when I was doing carnivore. And it was because it wasn't working properly, and then it started to try to work, and that can kind of happen too on a rapid weight loss. So, I mean, it wasn't the carnivore diet that did it. It was just that it wasn't working properly. And even the surgeon said that. I wish I didn't had it taken out and I could have saved it. They told me there's no way to save it. It is in such bad shape because I was in some pretty insane pain and bad stuff. And I was at the hospital and they even did like MRIs. I was at the Mayo Clinic. So it's not like I was at some small. In the Mayo Clinic, you know what I mean? They've got all the toys and stuff. And when they actually did the complete MRI and ran me through the machine, they were like, yeah, you're not going to probably, you know, you could try, but you're going to be back in probably tomorrow with more of an issue than not. Is it true? I got no idea. Did they just want to do this? Or, you know, now I question so much what they say. But she wasn't against me doing carnivore, which was interesting because Mayo Clinic is quite, you know, food-based. She's like, no, if you're losing the weight and you're feeling good, you know, she goes, all your blood work looks really good. Everything looks good coming back, you know, and so
that's
did
good.
have that happen, which was too bad. So I'm glad I say that because it sounds like, you know, getting past and stuff. So that's good. I think a lot of that is that like oxalate dumping and other things that happen from other food, and it's not a carnivore thing for sure.
Yeah. So Sardinia. Where exactly is Sardinia?
Isn't that kind of between? I thought it was between Turkey and Italy, or is it off the thing?
Could be. Let's see if I can find it.
I'm punching it in now. I know.
It's an island in the Mediterranean Sea.
Yeah, I know it's in the Med. I love the Med.
Between Sicily
so it's
and
not
Cyprus?
in between there. It's actually in between the other side, Italy and Spain, then I guess. Yeah. Okay, see, I thought it was on the other side. There's some island. Okay, and now I know what I was thinking then between Italy and Turkey. I want to travel the Med through on the Turkey side and sailing because I worked on boats for a good chunk of my life. For 15 years, I worked on boats. And I'm really into sailing and stuff. And I'd really love to get a sailboat and just sail. Something about money, though. You got to have money to have a sailboat, and boats are expensive. So I think somehow I've got to get the one to get the other to then just go, yeah, I'm just going to go sail the Med for 5 years. Yeah. See, and that's why when I was looking at Madeira, because it's off kind of the thing, and my cousin has a place in Tenerife. He married a girl from Tenerife, so he goes to Tenerife. And that, when you look at it, because I'm looking at that as off the coast of Africa, and then Madeira is just up there a little ways. So I would even kind of, in a sense, have some, you know, connection out that way, a little bit of family once in a while. I like island life, though. I miss that.
Yeah.
My
So
husband is going on
Simpsons.
Monday to see a surgeon about
Go
his
ahead.
gallbladder. Yeah, my husband is going on Monday to see a surgeon about his gallbladder. Has Carnivore ever helped people with gallbladder difficulties? So, like I said, I actually lost mine on it, but I didn't lose it because of Carnivore. And yes, I've heard of a lot of people who don't have to have it removed. Exactly what there, it cleans, it gets it working as it should be and pumps it out, as all that sludge and everything else kind of happens. According to what mine was, all the sludge was in there for so many years and kind of just never really got pushed out and cleaned up. The whole thing was just this big, stony, huge, like they said, the stuff that was in there that they could see. And I saw stuff in the scans. I mean, it kind of looked like chunky peanut butter, you know, in the MRI scans. And they're like, these things aren't going to be passing that easily and stuff. And you're going to have all these, again, I don't know. So, yeah, I would say, though, if he's not having issues, like I woke up in radical severe pain and throwing up and had to go to the ER. And it was one of the more painful experiences in my life, you know, that the pain I was having.
Yeah.
So don't have them say, oh, it's a vestigial organ, you don't need it. They lie.
Yeah. Carnivore, I'm sorry, also misses the islands.
Yeah. I do remember we talked about that, but I'm trying to remember more. I don't think we ever hit on that much. I know that I do remember talking about it now, though, some, but I didn't remember. For some reason, I think my head is on the book thing.
I could talk him into trying carnivore first. His symptoms are very iffy, and if caused by gallbladder, I think he just has them as, boy, I cannot read today. I think he just has them as so many do.
Yeah. I do know people that go on that. I've heard that from, you know, the big three, as I call them, Chafee, Baker, Barry. You know, a lot of people do get way better once it actually starts having a reason. You know, it's all this low fat stuff. I mean, that's its whole thing, is digestive. And here's the interesting thing about the no gallbladder. A lot of people I know get through things different ways. I'm having not really an issue. I've worked around it, and I have like 3 workarounds that work, but it makes it, you know, it's a different work. You can't just go, oh, I'm just going to pound this down and be good with it. But the problem is that your fat, it doesn't get all the nutrients out. So it's not just like, oh, you know, you can get the runs, you got to be careful. It's just that flat out, the bile, everything else is breaking down all the fat, you don't have the nutrient value. So it's a serious thing to not have a gallbladder, because you have to make sure that you figure out a way to get the fat through in a way where that bile, everything can react and you can slow it down and get the nutrient. Because if you don't, you just all you know, you just have to eat more, and or you can feel it. You can just kind of feel like a little weaker, or you get tired after you eat. That's what I've noticed. And that seems to be a common thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're at an hour and a half here.
Yeah. That was a good time.
So I think we're going to wind it down here. Yeah.
Time
Thank you,
flies.
everybody, for the comments. Chad, this was great. We should do this again sometime, you know.
Yeah.
Set this up again and chat. So let's see. I think there's our new comment. So, yeah, there's one more new comment I'm going to bring up here before we stop. The liver still produces bile, but you can't save it up for a big amount when you eat a lot of fat.
Yeah. And I know you can kind of build this pseudo like your body will start compensating. And I don't know if I've had that much. I've had some too, but it just keeps dripping it out. And these pseudo gallbladders that can form up can kind of help do that. And that's why like spreading the food out, I'm fine if I just spread my food out over 6 hours and just
Mm.
eat a little bit. I'm perfectly fine. When I was talking to real quickly, I forgot what it was that Sean Baker mentioned when I told him when I was doing the cheese. Besides the calcium, which can cause people constipation or kind of block you up and slow you down, I thought it might be that. Then he was mentioning something else with a casein, something in there, and it's like this opiate thing that can kind of do the same effect. So it might be something with that that's slowing it up, but it's definitely working. So,
Mm. Yeah.
and I'm testing it by going off it and then going back on and stuff like that. I'd rather not do the cheese because I do notice a little bit more stiffness in my joints. I definitely do notice the inflammation, but that other side is worth it.
Mm.
Hopefully, I'll develop one of these better pseudo gallbladders soon. That's my that's my goal.
Mm. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. Chad, thank you. This
Yeah,
has been
thanks so
great.
much. That was good. Well, it's fun
Yep.
to meet you finally too, because I know, like I said,
Yeah.
we've kind of a little bit, a couple of times we kind of crossed back, but
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
it's fun to do because then you get to know the person a little bit more, and
Exactly. Yep. Yep. That's the good thing with these lives is you get to know people better and so forth. So,
yeah,
all right, everybody. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you next
yep.
time. Bye.
Hooey ho.